All right, so we let a couple of people come in, a couple of minutes past the hour. Today, we're going to be talking about the different speeds you can actually get with the SureColor V7000. Like always, if you came to any of my other webinars, I go over a presentation. We kind of do an overview of the actual printer. If this is something new to you, you get a nice little overview of what the printer can actually do and what are some of the features. And then we'll go over printing something live. You can see the software that we use and a couple different things to get a better understanding of what you can do with the SureColor V7000 UV flatbed. I'm David Lopez, one of the product managers here for Epson America, and I primarily focus on all of the signage equipment. And behind me, I always like to start off with our application world so you can kind of get an understanding of what you can actually do with the SureColor V7000. So right behind me, you're going to see a couple different things, and it kind of ties into what you're going to actually choose for, like for speed and what's going to benefit you the most. Now, for the most part, when you hear different speeds out there for different competitor printers, you're probably listening to the fastest speed you can probably go. I personally like to tell you all the different speeds and look at the quality of what's going to be able to achieve, whether you're printing the fastest speed or the slowest speed for acrylic, if you will. So behind me, I have a piece of foam board. Now, this one I would print on a production. It's kind of that down the middle line. You're looking maybe about 7 boards an hour when you're printing on just production. And you're still getting that quality that you're going to expect from an Epson printer. And you're still getting some of that speed. So that's that sweet spot, if you will. But it really depends on the material that you're printing on. So again, if I'm printing on a corrugated piece of plastic, I'm printing a temporary signage, a yard sign, there's no really need down that much. What I want to do is I want to get production out. I want to get as much as I can get out as fast as I can. Quality is something that is, of course, we're going to be looking at, but you want to kind of get as much out as possible. So I would slow it down. If I'm printing a piece of acrylic, I'm printing something that I'm going to have a photorealistic image on it. I need something very smooth. Then I'm going to slow it down to more quality modes, which I'll show you on the software side of what we have to offer as far as the different print modes. Now, some of the questions I do get is, how many passes is this, or how many passes is that? Well, we've all been really accustomed to the pass count because that kind of identifies how fast or how slow you're going. With this printer, it's a little bit different. We don't really go by the pass count, we go by the resolution, and that's going to dictate the speed of what we're going at, which I'll explain again a little bit later on. Now, there's certain things that we've done and certain features I'll go over in the presentation, like not to reduce that much speed when actually printing with multi-layers. So for instance, if I'm printing a wooden coaster here, I'm going to be printing white, I'm going to be printing color. This one's a little bit more unique because I'm actually printing a clear varnish, white and color. So I'm doing 3 layers. Now, most people would expect that the speed's going to reduce dramatically. And because of the print heads and because of the different features that we have on the printer, you're not really reducing that speed. So that's a great benefit to the SureColor V7000. So before I jump into the presentation, I just want to let you guys all know that there is a Q&A portion of this there should be a button on there where you can actually type out your questions. I'll be answering them live. We don't have a huge group. It looks about 18 participants on the actual webinar, which is great because I can answer your questions one-on-one here during the webinar. So again, any questions you have regarding the printer, regarding pretty much anything you have, you can type it up and I'll try to answer them as best as possible. Now, during the presentation part, I don't see the actual questions. So if I don't get to them during the presentation, as soon as I go back to the camera part, I'll be able to answer them live. All right, with that being said, let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and then go to the presentation. All right, I think we're a little bit, let's go ahead and go to the front. There we go, perfect. All right, so first and foremost, we are talking about the SureColor V7000 4x8 UV flatbed. So this is a entry-level UV flatbed. But what we've done here is I think we really changed the game of how we actually look at a UV flatbed, a 4x8. Now, just because it's called entry level, really there's nothing really entry about this printer. The only thing really that's entry about this is the price tag on it. So it's well under that 100K mark. MSRP is $79.95, and that's delivered at your door. But really, I would talk to one of our partners where they get the quotes, and they will get you the exact numbers. But I'm just talking about MSRP. So what makes this unique? First and foremost is we have a 10 color system. That is very unique when it comes to the 4x8 UV flatbed. Now, of course, there are other products out there that are, have a higher price tag, have that $150, $200, $300,000 price tag that are going to have different colors options. But what we wanted to do is we wanted to get this 10 color system with our Epson quality and have that right price tag. So now everybody can actually get into this. If you are a print shop that has a solvent printer, maybe a resin printer, and are looking to print directly onto your substrates, your rigid substrates, now we're making it a little bit more feasible for you to get into this and still have that quality that you expect from Epson. So that 10 color system is going to have what's unique about it. You're going to have your CMYK. We're going to have those grays, light cyan, light magenta, red, varnish, and white. Now, what's the point of having all those colors if you're not going to get that productivity that we talk about and what we want? As technology increases, what we want in the industry as a printer, we want better colors and we want faster speeds. And that's always been a bit of a challenge when it comes to actually engineering the printers. But what we've done a really good job here of adding a certain amount of print heads, 8 to be exact, to be able to do all these spot colors, the white, the varnish, the reds, and still maintain that high speed that you would expect. So we'll talk a little bit more about it later on in the presentation, but I'm very excited about what we've done here and the technology that we've put in front of you guys. So this does get bundled in with our Epson Edge Print RIP software. Now, for those of you who are using a different RIP software, a third-party RIP software like an Onyx or a Caldera, EFI, Wasatch, you name it, we work very well with our partners. We don't just kind of narrow you down to one RIP software. We do bundle in with our own proprietary RIP software, which is by far really easy to use. I can pretty much teach anybody how to use this in about 45 minutes, which is pretty quick. And it's still powerful, so you're still doing a lot of different things. One thing I make point is we do have some very color critical customers, and every sample that's gone off of our machine that's sent out to customers, we've placed quite a bit of them now. It's been a very popular machine for us. They've been accepted. They accepted the samples. They accepted the color, all based on our Epson Edge Print RIP software. So it just goes to show you that it's still doing a really good job and still meeting the standards that some of the color critical people are looking for. But we do work really well with our third-party vendors. So we do. I do know that the profiles that we provide for Edge Print RIP software, we are able to convert them and have them over for Onyx. So if Onyx is your workflow, that's something that you'll be able to use right away. One nice unique thing that we've done here is you can actually print up to 3 inches thick. Now, this is important because as the technology increases and how the actual market is kind of changing, the 3 inches thick has been very important for us. Why? Now, the reason why it's important is that, of course, we're going to have our bread and butter. We're going to have those 4x8 sheets, the corrugated plastics, the pieces of acrylic. We're going to have just the 4x8 sheets. That's why that's the size of the machine. But now we can print to pre-manufactured materials. I don't know if you saw behind me, I had maybe some flasks. I had some lunch boxes, cell phone cases, different things that are pre-manufactured. We're able to actually put this on here. So having that 3 inches of thickness now allows you to put even more substrates onto the printer so you can print directly to it. So it's been a great feature to have. And of course, one of the things that is prevalent in all of our technologies is our print heads. Having that variable droplet technology is huge for the quality that, again, I call it Epson quality. People say, what do you mean by Epson quality? If you've been around Epson, if you know our photo printers, you know our die-sub printers, our solvent printers, one thing in common is that we use the same technology all around our different type of printers. Now, the variable droplet technology is going to give us that great quality that you expect from Epson. So going into the printhead technology and the printheads that we have in here, this is not much of a secret anymore because we already launched the printer, but one of the things is how we maintain the fast speeds, even though we're printing multi-layers, we're printing white, we're printing all the colors, including the red and grays, we're printing varnish on top and maintaining a high speed. How we did this was with 8 printheads into the system. Now, this kind of ties into the actual price of the printer. This is what we're able to do. We're able to engineer this printer, put 8 printheads inside of it, and still get that price at $79.95 MSRP, which is huge. This is a lot of the things that we had to do is to get the best technology out there. We wanted to make sure that we had enough printheads in there to get what the actual market needs and what you guys want. So 4 of the printheads are dedicated to the colors. 2 of the printheads are dedicated to the white. 2 of the printheads are dedicated to varnish. Now, apart from the actual speeds, the 2 dedicated white printheads and varnish printheads, what it's also going to help with is the opacity. If I put 100% opacity, I have 2 dedicated printheads to this. Now, this is double the amount of ink that we're able to really get a nice opaque white background. So I'll show you a couple of different examples as well, where you can see on a reverse printed acrylic, we're able to do double-sided and get a nice opaque white in there so you can see both sides clearly. Variable droplet technology I talked about a little bit, but this is important with that accurate dot placement. So behind the image of the actual printhead, you're going to notice those little rows of dots. Why it's important is when we start to actually go through our whole print process, making sure that our dots are slightly, or that they're not slightly off, is going to get us that correct color. And then this is also going to help with the amount of ink that we're actually putting down. If we can perfectly control the dots, now we can have a nice perfect mixture, and now we don't have to overcompensate and add more ink to get the right colors. So this is all very important technology. Like I mentioned before, this is one of the only few UV flatbed printers under the 200K mark with red ink. Now, this is very important because we want to get you the best color out there. We want to get you the best gamut that you could possibly get. UV ink on its own is its own type of ink that it has always been known to have kind of a smaller color gamut. But we're really changing the way people look at UV printing by adding this red ink, which is really going to help with those different red images. For instance, you can see the image on the left here, the different shades of red you can get. And of course, it's going to help with different brand colors. It's going to help you get as close as possible to some of the difficult to hit colors. And really, we're changing the expectations of what you can do with the UV printer. That's our whole goal here. We're not the very first with a UV flatbed that's a 4x8. We know that. But what we do really well here at Epson is we listen to you, the customers. We understand, we get your wants, we get your complaints that you had out in the past with different UV flatbed printers, and we say, how can we make this better? How can we put something out there that's going to benefit you all around? So I think we're doing a really good job for all the units that have been placed out there. The first thing that we hear is the quality is surpassing what they imagined with a UV flatbed printer. So we want to make sure that we continue to go with that as technology increases. And of course, like I always talk about, is our Epson quality. Here's the layout of the printhead arrangement. And this is, again, this is directly correlates with the speeds. So we have 2 printheads on the back that are dedicated for the white. You can see in the middle, we have the 4 printheads for the color. Now, it's kind of unique how we do certain things and how we laid it out, really for the speed and how we're able to print. You're going to notice that the gray, red, and light colors on the right side, the CMYK is on the left side. It really ties in, without getting too technical, but into the bi-directional printing and how dots get laid down, and then the varnish, 2 dedicated varnish in the front. So now we're going to see minimal speed loss when printing multiple layers. That's the most important thing. When you're printing with a UV flatbed printer, of course, you're going to want to print to something like metal. You're going to want to print to acrylics. You're going to want to print to wood. You're going to want to print to all these unique things. So multi-layer printing is huge. Now, we've seen in the past, we've talked to customers in the past that have a UV flatbed printer, and they're kind of faced with a hard decision. Hey, can I get this? Should I just get this in CMYK to maintain my speed? But I'm not going to be able to offer these other things like the metals and the wood. Or if I do have the actual white, I'm going to have to reduce the speed by 50%. On some of the other competitive printers, they reduce it by 50% when printing with white and clear or varnish. So we wanted to take away all that guessing from you. What we wanted to do is we wanted to add these amount of printheads and maintain that speed even with multi-layers. And here's a little breakdown of how we do things. Today's our focus on is how to choose the right speed for the white substrate or the different applications that we're going on. So today I'm actually going to show you, which it's kind of rare. A lot of people don't show this because they don't want to show the quality, but I'm going to show you the high speed, which is our fastest speed, going to give us 460 square feet an hour. That correlates to about 9-10 boards an hour, if I did my math right. And this is going to show you, this is great for that corrugated plastic. This is that yard sign that you know it's not going to stay out there, super long. It's temporary signage. It's not going to be out there for years. And it's something that your expectations, your customers' expectations are, I just want something quick. I want something cheap. I want something out there. So this is something that you can offer. Now, if I'm printing a piece of acrylic, I'm going to want to go down to that quality mode. I think quality is a sweet spot for me. I've been doing a lot of testing with this printer over the year that I've had it here. And quality is that very good quality. It gives me some of that speed. I'm not reducing it too much down to that high quality mode. And it does a really good job. So I think I'll try to show you both of those so you can kind of see the difference there. That production speed and speed mode are also really good down the middle production speeds. And those are, you're looking about, 7-8 boards an hour as well. So to put that into perspective, and by board, I mean a 4x8 board. When we talk about multi-layering, I do like to talk about some of the features that we have on here. I've talked to customers that already have the unit, and it was quite funny. Quick story, they said, what's the secret with the white ink? What do you have in this white ink that it doesn't get clogged? And really, I think one of the huge contributing factors to the white ink not getting clogged is the actual white recirculation. Now, the white recirculation is huge because what's happening is that every 30 minutes, the white ink is circulating in the system. Now, the white ink is actually not leaving the system, so you don't have to worry about it wasting any type of ink. It's just circulating inside the system to help maintain the reliability of the ink and no sedimentation happening. Now, just a little background on any white ink. Doesn't matter if it's direct to garment, like our t-shirt printers that we have here, or it's our white ink in our solvent machine. The chemistry of the white ink, it tends to separate a little bit more than any of the other colors. So that's why we focus on the white recirculation that helps maintain the stability of the ink. Here's a couple different features when it comes to actual printing, like a pin registration system that you would expect from a UV flatbed printer. It is a manual system, but I've actually had someone say, can you test out how long it actually takes to open up every single one of them? It took about 10 seconds. So it's still a very fairly fast process, and it really helps you align your 4x8 board or any type of board and gets you going pretty quickly. One nice thing that we've done here as well is we've done 4 vacuum zones. Now, remember I spoke about changing the expectations of what UV flatbed printers can do. Apart from quality, we understand that going back to those pre-manufactured materials or even smaller pieces of corrugated plastic, you're not always printing on a 4x8 sheet. So what we've done is we wanted to maximize the vacuum on specific zones of where you're printing. So let's say I'm printing on zone 1. The bottom left-hand corner is my 0, 0. Now I want to focus my vacuum on those zones. I turn off zone 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to maximize my vacuum. So now I'm not going to have to really tape down your material. Now, there is always stipulations depending on what you're printing on. Like I printed on a piece of cardboard that absorbed the ink a little bit more, and it caused a little bit of a flare-up. So I taped that off. That's normal. But for a piece of corrugated plastic, you're going to see during the demo, I don't tape anything off, and I'm able to actually print. Don't have to worry about any kind of head strikes or anything like that. It works really well. And then, of course, we have our auto thickness sensor. Nice usability feature that if you don't have any kind of way to measure the thickness or you want to just double check, it automatically comes out with a pin, goes down, measures the thickness, and then applies it to the software so that we know we're perfectly above the substrate. You always want to look for the highest point of your substrate to get the best results. A little bit about the EdgePrint software. I talked about it. This is our own proprietary software. Now, it does have our powerful color management technology in it. You can still do tiling, spot color matching, custom color library supports. It has embedded Pantone library inside of it. So if you are using Pantone colors, it would do its very best job within its gamut to try to hit those colors. So it's still a powerful RIP software that's going to give you a lot of great tools to start the process. This is an out-of-the-box solution. So if this is something that you purchase, they set up the printer, they teach you how to use it, within the next couple of days, you're actually running production and you can use it all off of Epson EdgePrint RIP software. Now, please talk to your some of our Epson partners or their dealers who you're purchasing the printer from. If they do offer, like, let's say Onyx or something like that, they can go through the training with that as well, and they can help out with that. We do have profiles for Onyx, so we can get you guys started as well. So last slide, I didn't want to make this super long. I think we're about in the 20-minute mark. Why Epson? There's three main things that's going to separate us from what's out there already. High quality, something that we're known for, that Epson quality that I always talk about. And really, it goes down to our ink set, CMYK, gray, light cyan, light magenta, red, varnish, and white. We've had some great success with our red inks on our S80 printers. We brought that over, and we continue to have that great success on our UV flatbed printer. Productivity, we understand that in our industry and our market, every customer wants something done yesterday. They said, yeah, how fast can I get this done? If I give you my art file today, can I come pick it up in the next couple hours? We wanted to give you the opportunity to be able to push some of these jobs up front. And so even if you're printing multi-layer, you're still going to get that faster speed when you're comparing it out to other competitive products out there. And then that entry-level price. That end user price is under $100,000. That's huge. So now this is making it a little bit more feasible for science shops who do have that one resin printer or that one solvent printer and want to get into printing on that rigid substrates, and having that 100K or under 100K, and it's not that $99,995, it's $79,995, so about $80,000 MSRP, making that available for you to be able to put that into your print shop and get this widely used by a lot of different people. All right, so that is the end of my presentation. We'll go ahead and switch over to the cameras now. Awesome. Let me go ahead and pull up my Q&A, see if you guys have any questions so far. All right, there's no open questions. Please, again, feel free to ask the question. That's what we're here for. Always remember that if you go, and you can always request a one-on-one demo with myself or one of my team members here. For the most part, I do a lot of the one-on-one demos. So if you do have questions, please feel free, type them in here. If you remember something later on, request a demo, request a sample. So I was talking a little bit about how we've changed the standard of UV printing, whether you're printing on wood, acrylics, pre-manufactured materials. This is that flask I was talking about, that even though it has a slightly curved surface, we're still able to print on it. Golf balls, baseballs, you name it. People are getting really creative with what you can do here. Different types of jars, different types of lunch boxes. This is that lunch box I was able to do here. You can see the thickness on here, and I was able to print directly onto it. Also, one nice thing that we've done as well, I've been doing some testing on some cotton. This is a little cotton bag. Now, one of the things that's very nice about our printer is this ink is semi-flexible. So one of the things that, as I was testing, I wanted to see if I crumbled this up, was my ink going to crack or anything, and it didn't. It performed very well, and this is just a forgive me, this is a polyester bag where I was able to print directly onto it, and the adhesion was very well, so it's nice. So I do have a question come up. I'll go ahead and read it out. So what's the difference between speed mode and production mode? They're both 720 by 720. So the resolution is going to be the same, but the speed mode is slightly faster, and that's the only difference there. So how it actually lays down the ink and how the different dithering patterns and how it actually produces, it goes a little bit faster. Does a printer compensate for nozzles out? So this one automatically, it does not. There is a feature there that if you have a stubborn nozzle that's always out, let's say accident happened, something happened, and you have a nozzle out, you can actually replace that nozzle with a neighboring nozzle. You can do up to, I believe it's 20 nozzles. So you do have that option there to replace them for stubborn nozzles that just won't clear out. For the most part, it's done a pretty good job. I've ran it quite a bit in the past year, and I haven't had to do that yet. All right, so I got another question. Can I talk about edge print and printing on sheets that may be slightly over 4x8 bed size? So great question. So really, this is slightly bigger than 4x8. We say 4x8 because that's the typical board size here in the US. We are a Japanese manufacturer, so this is actually done in the metric system, which is slightly over that 4x8 sheet. So on the actual edge print rip software, it will allow you to go slightly over. I'll show you on the software itself where the dotted line is, where it'll give you a warning once you're outside the actual bed size. All right, and then I got a question about what does the warranty look like? We do sell the warranty. You do have a year that you can tack on, and actually you can tack it on up to 5 years. Talk to our local resellers, they'll get you pricing on that. And the nice thing about this printer is there's very, very little consumables. When we talk about consumables, all you're really having to purchase is the actual ink. There's no other filters you have to change out. There's nothing like that. When you do purchase a warranty, we do have a 12-month an annual checkup where our technicians will go down to your shop. They'll take a look at it. They'll go through everything. If something needs to be replaced, they'll replace it for you as part of the warranty. But for the most part, there's no consumables that yourself would have to change out. All right, what are other brands that compete similar to the V7000? I really don't like to talk about the other brands that are out there. If you Google UV flatbed, 4x8 UV flatbed, you'll see some of the major ones out there. You'll see the Rollins, the Mutos, the Mamakis out there that have the 4x8 flatbeds. What you want to look for is the different price points. So there are different brands out there like Swiss Q and Vanguard that have maybe a 4x8 or a little bit bigger, but price tags are probably about $250,000 or $500,000, depending on what model you go with. So take a look at the price and compare the price before you start comparing the different specs on there. All right, and then can I talk about, I got a question comes up, can I talk about the regular maintenance process? You know what, let's go ahead and switch over gears. I want to show you the actual printer. We can talk about the different maintenance, the regular maintenance process. It's very simple. I'm loving the questions that I'm getting here, so keep them coming and I'll try to answer them as best as possible. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the flatbed printer and then we'll talk about some of the maintenance process. All right, so behind me we have the SureColor V7000 and the question that got brought up is the maintenance process. Now this is a very easy process. Now first and foremost, we have two different ways to turn on and turn off the machine. We have a soft power on and a soft power off. Now, the soft power, why I call it a soft power, I don't know if that's the official name, but what this does is that it turns off the unit, but it allows a couple things to continue running, like the negative pressure system, which I'll talk to you about in a sec. We do have a main power off that completely cuts off all the power, and I'll explain in a sec why that's important. Let's talk a little bit about the maintenance. So when it comes to actual maintenance, we do recommend that you do a daily maintenance where you basically, you're just going to purge a little bit of ink out and then you wipe the print heads. It's very simple to do. I'd say it takes under 5 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the carriage camera so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So on here on the actual carriage, on the left side and the right side, you have some buttons. So you go to the actual software, you go to the cleaning functions. What happens is you press this button. What it's going to do, it's going to push positive pressure out. So it's going to purge a little bit of ink. You hold it down for about 3 seconds. And then once you purge the ink, the carriage will come up. I push what we call the flush box. And then from here, you're able to actually wipe the print heads down manually. Now, the type of printhead that we have on here is a very robust industrial type printhead. So you're able to actually touch the surface of the printhead, which in the past, different printers, that's kind of a no-no. You can actually do that with this one. It's nothing that you're actually like scrubbing or anything difficult like that. It's a quick little wipe and you should be good to go. So for instance, I haven't turned this on in the past couple of days. So right before this presentation or this demo, what I did was I did a quick little cleaning, 3 seconds on this side, 3 seconds on this side, and then wipe the print heads, and that's about it. The reason why we have two different sides, which kind of takes me to my next little topic, is, and I talked about the soft power on, and I talked about the negative pressure. Without getting too technical, I'll explain a little bit about what the process is and how the system works. So in the back, we have our ink tanks or ink systems. Now, you pour in the ink there. It's a manual process, pretty easy. I'll show you in a sec. That gets pushed over to what we call our sub tank. Now, in our sub tank, it holds a small amount of ink. What prevents the ink from gravity just doing its job and just falling down is negative pressure. So we have negative pressure pumps on each side. We have two of them, and that hold the ink up. Now, the reason why we have two is that you're going to notice that the negative pressure on one side is a little bit different on the other side. And the reason for that is the viscosity of the white ink is slightly thicker than the colors and varnish. So the white ink will have its own negative pressure system, and the colors and varnish will have its own. So that's why we have two different sides. When I go to cleaning one, it's labeled on the side, I press that. That's going to purge out all my CMYK and varnish. When I go to my cleaning two, it's going to purge out my white ink. I hope that answered that question. You can kind of get a glance in here of what's going on. It's a lot of different tubes and cables in here, but this is exactly where the sub tank goes down to the print head. All right. Since we're here, I know that we got another question. I'm going to jump over to the television we have here so I can go ahead and read that. But before we go into that, I wanted to explain a little bit about the carriage as well. First things first, when you're doing your maintenance, where does that ink actually go? There is an actual trough here, and then here it goes down to a waste ink bucket that we have, or not a bucket, but a container that we have on the bottom here. Now, on the actual carriage, we've done a lot of great things to maintain that quality they expect from us. So what we've done here is, of course, we have LED lights on each side. Now, the LED lights, the purpose for this is they're long lasting. They have low heat emitting from here. So now we can print a little bit more heat sensitive materials. And then also what we have on here is ionizers. Now the ionizer, what this does is it helps eliminate some of the static that you can get with different plastics. So it's very important on where our dots get placed. We talked about that on the presentation, and to maintain that quality. So what we want to do is we want to prevent the static from pulling the dots in different areas. And we want to kind of control exactly where that dot gets put. So the ionizers help eliminate some of that static. Now, on the left and right, we also have jam sensors. We understand that one of the most expensive things on this printer is the print heads. So we want to make sure we protect the print heads, and we've done a couple different things. First, we have the jam sensor. So if you forget, or maybe something comes up and the thickness is a little bit different, it's going to hit the jam sensors before it hits the actual print heads. Now, for whatever reason, it happens to miss the jam sensors on either side. What we've done is the actual print heads are slightly recessed. So if it does going to hit something, we want it to hit the actual base plate and not the actual print heads, because we want to preserve the integrity of the print heads at all times. So we've done that as a secondary step. We've also done another thing, which I'll show you a live demo as well, is we have a laser that comes across, because first and foremost, everybody's first reaction to do something is they want to come in and they want to see the print. We want to avoid the person from getting hit and getting injured, and we also want to avoid the actual printer from getting damaged as well. So it serves dual purpose. One of the nice features that we've done here is if any of these sensors are broken, you can actually, let's say it was an accident. I talk with my hands a lot. I break the sensor. What happens is I can check my print. I can say, did anything mess up? Nope. All right, and continue printing. This is a huge feature that we've gotten, a big request that we've gotten, because a lot of the competitive printers out there, what would happen is that if a sensor went off, it completely canceled the job, which for maybe a small piece of a corrugated plastic, not a big deal, kind of cheap. But if I'm printing a full 4x8 sheet of acrylic, that's, it gets pretty expensive. There's, $200-300 pieces of acrylic out there that you don't want to be wasting just because you accidentally hit a sensor. So we allow you to actually observe your print, say, hey, there's nothing wrong, and continue printing, and you won't even know where it last stopped and finished. So great different features that we've done there. Let me go ahead and jump over to the screen. Let me read some of the questions that we've been getting and then answer them as we continue through the overview of the printer. All right, so says they've had some print tests done on very high detail items with a UV printer using a DX4 printhead. Funny story about that, but that's not the actual name. That was just something that the industry kind of took on its own. We'll get into that a different day, but I get what you're saying, DX4, okay. And the V7000 did not match the detail of our printer. Any explanation? Yes, there are different ways on how printers communicate and how dots are actually created, on how they're called contouring modules, how different, the different waveforms. So there are differences on there. Understand that what we've done here for our printer is we want, apart from quality, we want the reliability. We want to make sure that with our ink that we manufacture, with our printheads that we manufacture, we're getting you a consistent print, whether you're printing something today or you're printing something next year. We want to get that consistency. So we have the right recipe to make sure that we're getting everything dialed in. All right, so another great question is, I know some people have other machines that printed images and they seem to scratch off easily in the field. So is this just the nature of printing direct to flatbed? To answer that question is, it really has to do, there is some limitations, of course, whether, UV flatbed printing. And there's some things that require maybe a primer to help adhere the ink a little bit better, but it really goes down to the chemistry of the ink. Now, one of the things that I like to do, I'll show, is I'll cut directly into a piece of corrugated plastic. This is telling me a couple of different things. It's telling me that I'm getting good adhesion to the actual material, and it's not flaking off or anything like that. And it tells me how well it's actually going to hold up out in different environments. So one thing, there's a lot of different variables when it comes to UV flatbed printing. I'm going to kind of take the strategic or the more educational approach to this webinar so you guys get the most out of it. One of the main things when it comes to printing to UV printers is the actual materials itself as well. Everybody kind of goes first to, is it the printer? Is it the ink? They really need to understand the whole process and the different variables that get put into place. So for instance, the corrugated plastic. Not too many people know, but actual corrugated plastic has a shelf life. It's about a year. Now, one of the things that's happening is that some of the corrugated plastics or some of the different plastics are corona treated. What that means is they change the surface tension of the actual material to help with the adhesion of the ink. Now, that only lasts about a year on the shelf. So I've had customers that said, hey, it seems to be flaking off on this material, but not this material. So first thing I asked was, how long was that piece of corrugated plastic sitting on your shelf? Well, I've had it for a couple of years. Okay, that makes sense. Because they'll say like, hey, is it maybe the newer one's working just fine, this older one's not working fine? It was because what's called the dyne levels, D-Y-N-E, are diminishing over time, and the surface tension is changing over time. So that's also a variable as well. But it really depends on your ink and your materials. Hope that kind of answered your question. In a minute, I'll grab a piece of corrugated plastic, or actually the one where we print, we'll cut into it and I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right. So let's go ahead. We've been kind of talking a lot. I want to show you the process. I want to get something printing so you guys are able to actually see this. I'm going to go and jump over to the software side so you kind of see what's going on in the software. All right, so first and foremost, what you see in front of us is our Epson EdgePrint RIP software. Now, the Epson EdgePrint RIP software, very easy to use. Like I said, for someone who's never used the RIP software, you can pretty much learn how to use this in about 45 minutes. Now, the reason why I say that is that everything, as someone teaches you, if you forget, everything is on the right side. Oh, excuse me. Now, very simple, the buttons here, add, if I want to add a job, I click onto wherever I have my image, I add the job. And first thing you're gonna notice is that every job comes with 3 different layers, whether there's data in the layer or not. So what I'm gonna do is I'm printing on a piece of white corrugated plastic. There's no reason for me to print white. So I'm gonna go down to my layer settings here, and I'm gonna just turn off the white. Now we have different options. So I have the whole area, just an image, or everything excluding the image, which I think this is just a full image. I don't think it's gonna give you, here, I will go ahead and show you here so you guys can get an example of what I'm talking about. Go to my layer settings. If I go whole area, that's just the whole square. If I go to just the image, I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in so you can kind of see wherever there's color, it's gonna actually put white. Now, you kind of notice it was using some white around here. If I have include the white areas, that should go away. And what happens is it compensates, it knows that, okay, it's part of the image. We're gonna go ahead and clear that up. Now, I can do everything excluding the image. So this is the complete opposite. And it's gonna go ahead and print the complete opposite of that. So I'm gonna go ahead and go back to this other image here that we're gonna be printing today. First thing we wanna do is I wanna make sure it's the right size. I believe this is an 18 by 24 piece of corrugated acrylic. I wanted to show you the high speed. This is something that we normally don't show. I want you to have the correct expectations first. First and foremost, this is going high speed. Well, number one complaint that we've heard out in the field is that with competitive printers, that when you print with high speed, the colors look a little bit dimmer. So I wanted to show you that even at high speeds, we're able to get nice saturated prints, which is kind of rare for a UV flatbed printer. Understand that also setting the correct expectations. We are going high speed. So is this something I'm going to be looking close up with a loupe? Probably not. This is something that I put on a sign. I'm viewing it from a distance. It's going to be okay. So it's a 360 by 720 speed. You're going to understand. Again, I mentioned we don't go by passes here. We're going by the actual print quality. On my layout, I can actually start to make different copies of if I want. I can change the size. I'm going to leave the size as original, and I can continue going down. If I want to, if I'm doing a reverse print, I can mirror the image here. You know, it has all your basics that you would want from an actual RIP software. If I go to my color replacement tab, I can actually, whether it's a raster or a vector image, I can use my eyedropper, click my edit, click on anywhere I want on here. It's going to come up with my input. I can output it to whatever I want. If I want to make sure that this is, if I'm printing on a black substrate and I want this red hot spicy burger to be just white, I can go over here and go to my CMYK with white and varnish and add 100% white. Maybe I want that just to be a nice gloss effect and just do varnish. I can do that as well. So different options that you can do here. I'm going to go ahead and delete that because we're just going to print regular. All right. I think I'm going to go ahead and crop this one a little bit to get some of this white space. I'm going to enable this. We have some white space on here. Get this cropped out, which is a nice feature as well, where you can kind of just drag and drop, or you can actually put an actual size on here as well. All right. So I'm in my layout. One of the things that I always do is I 180 it, because when it actually prints, you're going to see it come out the right way. That's just how the software is. So from here, if I hit print, it's not going to automatically print. What it's going to do is it's going to send it to my UV flatbed controller, which is the software I'm going to talk to you about in a sec. So as this is ripping, I'm going to go ahead and talk to you about the UV flatbed controller. Now, the UV flatbed controller, think of this as your control panel, if you will. If you have a different type of printer, if you have another Epson printer, all of our Epson printers have an actual control panel. So if I want to move my gantry, or I want to move the carriage back or forward, I can do that all from here. See here, you're going to notice it automatically popped up. It came from my RIP station down to my UV controller. This is kind of the gateway, if you will, before you can actually send it out to print. Now, this is a nice feature as well, because if you start getting a bunch of prints ready for the next day or later on, I can start queuing up everything. So all I have to do here is just click the print button. All right. So first thing I want to do before I start printing is I get my piece of corrugated plastic on there, and I'm going to turn on the vacuum. Now, let me go ahead and grab a screwdriver. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up my pins slightly up just to get it aligned to my 0, 0 a little bit easier. Now, on the actual bed, we have an engraved ruler. It might be a little difficult to see on the camera, but there's an engraved ruler, so now I can tell it exactly where I want it to go. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit my vacuum button. I'm going to turn on my vacuum. Now, I'm going to go ahead and walk around the side, and I want to make sure that all my zones are turned off except for my zone 1, which is my 0, 0 point. So I'm going to go ahead and walk over. So you can see here, they're clearly labeled where my zone's at. I actually have the back one open, which I don't need that open. I'm going to turn that off. It's a simple manual lever. I can open or close, and I'm just going to leave my front one on. Now, once the front one's on, it's very easy to, I can turn it off or on if I want to remove the piece of corrugated plastic. So I have that on. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the front. I have my piece of corrugated plastic on the actual bed. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to check my Z position. This is going to tell me the thickness of the actual material that I'm printing on. So I'm going to go ahead and walk back to the software. All right, so from here, I'm going to go to my settings. I'm going to tell it where I want it to measure. So I'm going to give it 100, 100. This is millimeters. I'm going to hit my execute button. You have an option here to go different thicknesses. It's all about productivity. If I have something that's thin, there's no reason for me to go, the carriage to go all the way up to 80 millimeters, which is at 3.14 inches. I can actually, I know it's under that 25 millimeter mark. I don't have to go that high. I want things to go faster. I'm going to hit execute, and then it's going to go through its process of measuring the thickness of the material, which we'll go ahead and show you right now. So I gave it a designated area of where to actually print. You're going to see it's going to go to that area. It's going to go over it. It's going to bring out a pin. It's going to measure and then automatically go 1.3 millimeters above the actual substrate. It measured. My software is going to tell me that the measurement was complete. I hit OK. Now, on the bottom here, I can see that's 4.41 millimeters. Now, if I want to change this, maybe I'm like, man, you know what? I think it's a little too close. I looked. I can go to specify manually, and now I can change this value however I want. I trust the system, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it with the automatic thickness check. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Now, theoretically, from here, I am ready to start printing. What I want to check is my X and Y margin. Now, my X margin is going to be my horizontal. My Y margin is going to be the bed going towards the back of the printer. So I can look at my engraved ruler. I see that my X direction is at 10 millimeters and my Y is actually at 0. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my software, put my Y at 0. Now I can start actually printing. Now, one thing I'm going to look at is my Y print direction. There's a little display here of how it's actually working. So right now we have it so it's white, color, and varnish. Now, because I'm not printing white or varnish, I can really print either way. But if I was printing white first, I'd want it this way. Now, if I hit forward, you can see it changes. And this is for a reverse print or second surface print. If I'm printing a piece of acrylic, I can print color first and then the white on top. And again, I'm printing color only, so it really doesn't matter. It's going to go backwards, which means the carriage is going towards the back. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and start printing. I hit my print, start print, and we're going to start printing on the high speed mode. Now, in the middle of this print, I'm going to actually break one of the sensors so you can kind of see how that looks like. and we'll go from there. So as this is going, it's going to be laying down the color. Remember, the color print heads are in the middle of the print or the configuration there. You can see this is moving pretty quick, but one thing I want you to notice is the actual, I'll bring the print up to the camera, but I want you to notice the actual density even at the higher speeds. Now this is going to finish pretty quick, so I want to stop this really quick. I'm going to stop here. Now the carriage is going to automatically stop instantly. The nice features that we're able to do is I'm going to show you in the software. It gives me the option to restore. Do I want to Z-axis rise, which means it's going to bring my carriage all the way up, or I know I stopped this purposely. I'm going to go ahead and resume print, and we're back to printing without stopping. Now we don't have to waste any kind of material. We don't have to waste time. We don't have to waste anything. You're going to see this is pretty much done. Now, as I mentioned, this is the wow part of this. We understand that this is the fastest quality. This went pretty fast. This is something that I'm not going to look under a microscope. I'm not going to, be looking at right off the bat. I'll go ahead and turn off my vacuum so I can pick this up. This is not something, but the quality that you're able to get at these high-speed modes, the density that I'm able to get on this red, everything's perfectly finished. This is a sellable print. This is something that I can put on a front yard and we're okay. Someone mentioned about certain things flaking or not holding up to environments. I just printed this. You saw this. I just bent this 180 degrees. So I have a semi-flexible ink in here. This is the only thing we offer. What we wanted to do was we wanted to show customers, and you can see that it's not flaking or anything like that. I've kind of beat this up. We can bend it the other way as well. We understand that customers get these, throw these around, and it really has to do with the inks. You can see that I bent it pretty good. I have no flaking. I have nothing coming off. I have nothing. This is a durable print. So the ink has a lot to do with it. The material has a lot to do with it. We talked about the different variables. Now, a lot of the times, let's say you're all printing on a 4x8 sheet. You might want to put this on a router and cut this. Another thing that I'm looking for, I never like to, hopefully I never cut myself one day live on camera, but there it is. Another thing I'm looking for is wherever I cut, I don't have any kind of flakes or anything like that. That means the ink is doing its job to adhere very well. I'm flaking this. I'm trying to get, everything. It's cut nice and perfect, all sides, and I'm not getting any kind of flaking or anything coming off. So moral of the story for this one is the density is amazing still at the highest speed possible. This is a great sellable print. I could put on there. Expectations are exactly what I want or even better. I cut into it. I'm not getting any kind of flaking. I've bent this print. I'm not getting any kind of breaking or anything coming off. This is a durable industrial type of print. This is something that you look for in a UV flatbed printer. So I hope you guys learned a whole lot about the SureColor V7000, what we've done engineering wise to get one of the best UV flatbeds, 4x8 UV flatbeds under the 100K mark out in the market. The ink has a lot to do with it. The engineering we've done behind all of this kind of ties in to really put this out there. We're extremely excited. The red, everything we've done to this, extremely excited of what we've done here. And I hope you guys are excited too. And don't take my word for it. Get a sample. You can request a sample, request a demo, send me in your materials. We have a team of professionals here that will print on your material, cut into it, get realistic. Not always is everybody going to print with expensive type of materials. I've tested the cheapest you can possibly get. I've tested the most expensive you could possibly get. I want to be as realistic as possible. So send in your materials. We can test them for you. Look at the quality. Look at what we can do with this printer. And I really wholeheartedly believe that we're changing the expectations of of what you can do with a UV flatbed printer. I hope you guys got a great understanding of what you can do with the SureColor printer. I am David Lopez again, product manager here at Epson America. And thank you so much for taking the time today to ask the questions and see the overview again. And we will have this posted up on our website. If you go on epson.com/UV flatbed, you will be able to see an overview as well. You can see past recorded webinars. I talk a lot about different features and different usability features that you can do with the printer in case you forgot anything we mentioned today. So with that being said, thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.